Welcome to the forefront of innovation.
Good morning and welcome to An Eye for AI. As always, we're very thankful for Community News allowing us to use this platform to get the word out about AI, because that is, AI is not the future. AI is really very much the present. And we're going to bring you guests that are very much into the space, and we'll provide some insight on just everything about AI, really, but most importantly, how you can apply it in your business. So today I have with me Jaime Rivas of OTR Digital. Jaime, welcome to the show.
Carlos, thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure to have you here. So it's interesting because I am in the marketing space and you are in the marketing space. So it's interesting. When did you decide, and how was that transition from becoming strictly a marketing agency to becoming really more focused on being an AI agency?
So we started the marketing agency, I think about 8 months ago,
Okay.
8 or 9 months ago. And since then, we've done pretty well for ourselves. We've had a couple like retainer clients and things like that. But for me, it was something that had to do with the results, right? So the marketing agency and the AI agency are completely separate. So
Okay.
we started a completely new entity for the AI agency, and we focused just completely on that. But for me, that transition was almost a little familiar, because in the same sense, it was, I got to help people, right? So with marketing, I was helping people, get more leads, get more clients, but it was a very, very slow process, right?
Yeah.
There's a learning period when it comes to ads. It takes time to actually get that ball rolling.
Sure. And clients don't always understand that.
Yeah, and clients don't always understand that. So I actually can remember it very, very clearly that when
You'll want to launch a podcast, but you got no clue how or where. C News TV makes it easy. Choose from one of our 4 podcast studios, Studio A, B, C, or D. We provide the professional space, the equipment, the crew, the know-how, and even a host if you need one. Book a studio now at sales@cnews.net.
One of my clients got their first big wins. He texted me like at 10 at night. I remember because I was out at dinner, and he texted me. He's like, "Oh my God, I just sold something for $3K." All right. And then this was one of my really early clients. He was only spending like about $1,000 on ads. So it was huge, right? One sale, one deal, got him $3K, but it took a while. It took about a month and a half, right? It really made me happy, and it got me riled up. I was like, all right, let's do this. I want to, keep helping people this way. And at that point, we were already doing a little bit of it, like AI automations, like very small things, like having to do with like ads and kind of just data and stuff like that.
Right.
But one of the partners, one of our current business partners right now, he had started working with a doctor's office, right? And then he was telling me about the process, and he was telling me how he was able to create a system for them that we currently still use for our business now. That was all about data entry for the insurance billing, right? And he told me how it saved the owner of the medical clinic. She was spending around 4 hours a day for 5 days,
just
towards
billing?
the end of the month, just doing the billing, like all the PDFs and making sure everything was in order to send it to the insurance.
Right.
We were able to bring that process down from 5 days, 4 hours a day, to around 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, and she splits it up into 2 days because she wants to. So seeing that impact and how we were able to help somebody, I don't want to say instant, but it was almost like an instant gratification, comparatively so to marketing, right?
Right.
So I think that's what made me really want to have that shift, and that's where I was already I've been really into like AI since the beginning, since like ChatGPT first released, and I was always playing around with it. But that was what really sparked my interest, and I was like, okay, this is something that is here to stay, and it's here to help people.
Right.
So, yeah.
So something I read about you is that really you and your company live at an intersection between data, psychology, AI, and performance.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So the data is very self-explanatory, right? AI is amazing at processing data. I think the way that psychology plays into it is just that was kind of like the core that we had for our marketing, where we wanted to have a basis all around psychology. But now we use that for our operations, right? I think we like to talk a lot about, the benefits and, stuff that AI has to give people, just not in terms of just like the technical, right, aspect of it, but in the way that people can use it to better their lives, right? People
Right.
don't, I think one of the biggest problems that we have whenever we talk to new clients is that they don't understand the capabilities of it, right? So it's more about a process of like trying to elevate yourself with the use of AI and elevate your business. So that's where like the psychology plays in a little bit still, right?
Yeah, I think that's a job that we do have to do, is just to show clients the capabilities of AI. I mean, I liken AI at this point to on par, or if not more important than the discovery of electricity. I really feel it's that big. And I think a lot of users are stuck in, you've heard this before, I'm sure, using these large language models as a search engine,
Yeah.
when it could be doing so much more. So talking about, I think you referred to it as the gold rush right now, this craziness that is AI, that, and I like to say I coined a term. I don't know if I coined it, but I use it all the time. It's called AI anxiety. And I think everybody suffers from it. I'm pretty much into the space, but I suffer from it because every day there's something new coming out, new capabilities, a new model, et cetera, et cetera. So where do you see this gold rush? How do you see it? What's going on right now?
Well, I see this gold rush in the terms of it has the capabilities to really make every business more efficient. So I see it in the way that just like when there was gold in California, everybody rushed to California to get all that gold.
Right.
Everybody sees the AI and everybody's rushing to put the AI into their businesses, right? So you're seeing a lot of businesses try to install the AIs themselves, which comes with a lot of problems.
Right.
There's a lot of security risks that a lot of these business owners aren't going to think about because, that's not their field, right? They're dedicated to their craft, which is whatever it is that their business it may be, whether it be HVAC or engineering or whatever.
And that goes
be.
for marketing too. They're not marketers. They're, they build widgets or whatever they do.
Exactly. So I think that a lot of the anxiety does come from the new tools. I feel that as well. But these people that are building them themselves, they aren't aware about like the security risks and stuff that can come along with this. You're essentially allowing like a vulnerability to enter your business if you're not doing it the right way, and then that in turn can cause a panic as well, where I've also seen that also be a contributor to AI anxiety. I don't know if you heard about the story where the headline was AI deletes a business in 9 seconds.
No,
I don't know.
Tell me about that.
So I don't remember the exact name of the company.
Is this recent? Or?
This is very recent. This was I think 2 or 3 days ago that I hit the headlines. This has happened before. I don't know if it was, I don't want to say a company name, but I don't know why cursor popped into the top of my head. But I know this has happened a couple of months ago, right? And I'm hoping that the company that it happened to, a couple of days ago, they had backups in place. But it's a prime example of how, things can go wrong with AI if you don't have like the proper protocol set up. But that, the headline, as the headline says, the company got deleted in 9 seconds. So, I guess they gave it a bad prompt and it just poof. Company was gone, like everything, all the files, because basically all the company is just a stack of files, right?
Right. At this point,
at this point,
and they're all electronic at this point too.
Yeah. So without backups, without anything, and then the AI, like I said, without the proper security protocol, it's just going to run rampant, and it could do that and delete that.
Yeah, so. I think that in this anxiety, in this rush to use AI, you're absolutely right, because you're going to get, if you use Claude, for example, and you use Claude in your browser, you're giving it access to a lot of things that maybe you shouldn't be. Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen some of that.
Yeah. So I personally have you heard of OpenClaw?
Yes.
So I have an OpenClaw agent, right?
Okay.
But I didn't give it access to my computer. I have it running like on a VPS. It's completely far away. It has its own email accounts, so it's not emailing people from like my business domain. I've taken all the security measurements to make sure that like it doesn't affect me or my personal life in that way, where it could, maybe it sends an email to the wrong person that's like filled with AI hallucinations, right? That doesn't really look good for credibility or anything.
Before you go on, explain what an AI hallucination is.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
So an AI hallucination is basically when the AI has too much context, right? And usually the AI will be good for a certain amount of time, right? So you can have like 10, 20 chats where the AI is performing perfectly. Then all of a sudden it reaches its breaking point where, you've overloaded, you gave it way too much information, it has way too much context, and then it's just going to start spitting out like random things, right? Like I've had it where it said the word ski, like just in every sentence for some reason.
Yeah.
So those are examples of hallucinations. Other hallucinations could be a little bit more subtle, right? Which is where I think the reliability of AI kind of comes into question, at least for now, right, at its current state, where you may have, like I said, you may have everything perfect for 10, 20 sessions, but then the 21st session, right, it looks fine. Whatever you told it to edit looks fine, but maybe something else in the document got edited, right?
Yeah.
So it happens a lot, right? And it's a case of, you have to check everything that the AI is doing, although we don't want to. A lot of vibe coders don't even check the code that they write.
Right.
And then these models are just rewriting everything over and over and over again. At some point it's going to hallucinate, or it's going to make those mistakes.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was vibe coding with Claude. I was trying to do something with formatting an email.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because, I was fighting with Claude for a while there, saying, wait a minute, the last code you did was perfect except for this section. Now you're giving me new code that is totally off. Go back. So it's like you say, it's not the holy grail, so to speak. You do have to put checks and balances on your whatever it is, on the answers that, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever gives you. And as I understand it, early on, a lot of lawyers didn't check their briefs and things like that, and the hallucinations were rampant.
Yeah.
They were referring to cases that didn't exist and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've heard of it doing things like that. Like especially when I'm doing research and I have it give me sources, I always like to at least go through and check the sources.
That's
make sure
exactly
that they
what I do.
exist.
Yeah.
Because that is a very big problem.
Yeah. When we talk about adoption of AI, what should a business really look at to, first of all, to see if they need AI, because not every business needs AI. And what are some of the things they can do to prep themselves so that it will be a success in their business?
I think that's a great question, by the way, but I think that there is a lot that a business can do to kind of prepare themselves, because there's a lot of like automations that you can do that aren't really worth the time.
And it really isn't AI, it's just automation.
Yeah, it's just automation, right? So I can kind of explain like the way that we do things a little bit.
Sure.
I think that might help. So ours is a mix of like AI agents and workflow automations, right? So I think the big first thing that you should do is figure out what daily repetitive tasks that you do. So that's how we start. We start with a business, we call it an AI audit, which essentially is we take out all the daily operations that the business does, and we see which of these can potentially be automated. Usually anything that's done on a computer has the potential to be automated.
Right.
And then the next step that we do internally, but a business could always do this too, is find out which of these are more complex that they'll require an AI, to be in the loop or in the mix, or which of these are actual just workflows that need to be like automated through systems like I don't know if you're familiar with N8N and things like that. Yeah. So those automation systems, Zapier, things like that, those are workflows. AI agents should be used when tasks are more complex and they need like more reasoning, right? So what's a good example of this? Let's say it's a form, right? A form can be, filling out a form can be seen as a workflow. But if it's a form that has to read something else and then, kind of come up and think about like, what specific areas and subjects it's going to fill in, and every single form is different, that's a more complex task where an agent can, realize, okay, this entry is different than the last one. I have to fill in these exact things.
Right.
And then again, all these systems, especially when dealing with very sensitive files, we like to keep a human in the loop, right? None of this should be completely 100% autonomous because, like I said, at some point it is going to hallucinate. At some point, we're still at the point where we have to babysit the AI. Unfortunately, we're still there. It's not at the point where it's good enough to, make.
I'm really glad you said that, because a lot of people think they can just let it run. And I know that's a big mistake. Yeah. Like I had mentioned before, the security risks that come with that they heavily outweigh the rewards, right? So big prime example, you let it run on its own, you step away to grab like a coffee or something, and then all of a sudden you come back and your whole business is deleted. Yeah. Right. That's worst case scenario, but
it can happen, right? And it is a possibility. So I think that, having a human in the loop is very, very important. Having somebody to at least look over these sensitive files, but we can't deny that how much time it saves, right? Because if, let's say it gets, 30 files done and then 31st it made a couple mistakes, it's still faster to just fix those couple mistakes than it is to do all 31 files yourself.
Right.
So I still think it's a huge improvement in technology. It's something that I think is definitely here to stay for business. But for right now, I think the max that we can get it to is like 85% accurate, or accurate 85% of the time.
Okay.
Right. So, and I think that's good enough to keep a human in the loop.
Right. Yeah. That 15% could cost you dearly.
Yes, it can. Yeah.
Okay. What about agentic AI? You hear that term just repetitively now. What is agentic AI, and how are companies employing AI agents right now?
Agentic AI is pretty much a security risk, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that having an AI just kind of like autonomously do whatever it wants without the proper security parameters is just a really, really big risk in that sense. I think. But
you hear of like big companies using agentic AI like crazy.
Yeah. So
they're.
I'm hoping they're not using OpenClaw. I know that NVIDIA just released, not just released, I think it was about 3 weeks ago that they released something called NemoClaw, which was an enterprise secure level OpenClaw. It still had its flaws. It still had like some of its bugs. I think that agentic AI is just really like hype for now.
Okay.
A lot of people are hopping onto it because it's very trendy.
Yeah.
All these Mac Minis sold out the second that OpenClaw dropped, and then the waves just started. So I think that a lot of businesses are still hopping onto this wave of agentic AI, but what they don't realize is that they don't need agentic AI for a lot of these systems. They need workflows.
Right.
So that's where, they're misusing the agentic AI. I think the agentic AI is good for certain things. Like I have mine basically be like my secretary, right? It tells me what I have to do for the day. It updates my calendar. If I needed to do a quick task, it could do it while like I'm on the road.
And you did that through OpenClaw or
through OpenClaw? Okay. Yeah. And then, but still, I still have it in the mix with other automations and workflows that I've made, not through OpenClaw, not through an agentic system, just again, AI workflows.
Right.
And that I use the agent kind of like a command center almost, where I have all these workflows already set up, and then the agent can just kind of like activate them, right? So I have a research one that is activated. I made a really cool one where this is my favorite one. I made it a couple of days ago, but I just take a picture of the front and back of a business card. I've been going to a lot of networking events, and take a picture of the front and back, uploads it straight to my CRM. And then once it goes into my CRM, the input is read, and then another agent activates. And then that one does a little bit of research on like the person and the business, and then just puts a little summary into my CRM.
Very interesting. Really great.
I think things like that are...
What CRM do you use?
I made my own.
You made your own CRM?
I vibe coded my own CRM. I wanted to keep control of my data.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have it connected to other things like Go High Level and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been able to connect most of our dashboards to like pretty much any tool. So that's another thing that I think is very important. And I think that's the future of software, is just fully customized software. Yeah, especially with the capabilities that we have now, that AI can just
and you did it on your own. And not everybody can, but if I can vibe code, I think anybody can vibe code. Yeah, because I am not a coder.
Yeah, I wasn't a coder either. Right. My background was in psychology and digital marketing. And I really only started learning this in December of last year. I ended up partnering with two techs that I thought were, phenomenal to have as partners. One of the is he majored in computer science, computer engineering. He's the one that makes a lot of these automations. And then the other biggest component for us is our head of cybersecurity.
Okay.
So
important component.
Super, super important component. I think without that, I wouldn't have been so forward moving into getting into the AI business, because that was one of my biggest concerns, right? It was like, okay, I know how to make these workflows. I've learned how to do all this. I've learned the knowledge of where to integrate things into these businesses, but the security was the one thing that I was like, okay, this is something that's out of my field. So that's why I had to get a partner that knew everything about it.
Well, it's good that you even thought of that, because I think a lot of people are just diving in without considering that. and their files are all vulnerable.
Yeah, that's the new trend right now, where businesses are trying to make their own AIs, like you said, like with the agentic AIs, and then they're not it's not that it's pretty much that they're unaware of the security risk, right? Because it's not like it's glaringly obvious either, right? You can make it work. Like, you think like you're coding a CRM, but the CRM can still have security risks. Like, the AI is still connected to the internet, right? Somebody gets a hold of your system or something, they can speak to the AI and they can just extract all your data if things aren't set up properly. So
another thing that you talk about is kind of I'll call it this predictive consumer behavior. And where does that fall into the whole AI spectrum?
So I think predictive consumer behavior is very important when it comes to AI, because we want to know exactly how the AI is going to affect the business that it's going to be put into, or the area of space that it's going to put into. I'm assuming you meant like consumer in the way of like people using like the AI.
Right.
Because it kind of can go both ways, right? We can use it to target like how the AI will interact with the customers as well, right? But the way that I primarily look at it is how the AI is gonna interact with the business itself, right? Like, is it gonna actually speed up time? Is it gonna actually, save us money? Are these systems even worth putting into place, right? Because AI is not free,
right?
So it's us really predicting how the business or the customer will use the AI and then try and make it as efficient as possible. That's how we use that.
Okay. So really you've transitioned from a marketer to really almost like an industrial engineer, a business process analyst, is that correct?
Almost, yeah. I consider myself the least technical one, because even my partner from my marketing agency that also, is a partner in this new business, he has a computer engineering background, right? So everybody around me is very technical, and I'm the least technical one out of all of them. My expertise really comes into knowing like the proper implementation of things into the businesses and stuff. Like I said, my MBA is with a concentration in AI integration.
Right.
But as time has evolved, I've wanted to learn how to use these systems. I wanted to learn how to make all these agentic workflows and really have a deep understanding. While I may not be as technical as, my techs and my other partners, I feel like I have kind of fit into that role where I am making my own systems, and I'm kind of becoming like an AI engineer in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about where companies are getting things wrong. I don't know if there's anything beyond cybersecurity that they're getting wrong, and we can talk about that. But I'd also like to know where companies are getting it right.
I think with data entry. So data entry is the elephant in the room when it comes to AI, because I think a lot of people were worried about AI taking their jobs and things like that. And I think the job that is most vulnerable would be that of data entry.
Okay.
Unfortunately so, but it's just because it's the thing that AI is best at.
Right.
So
repetitive tasks,
right? And that's all that data entry is. So like you just said, repetitive tasks, I think, is where, these businesses are getting it wrong or getting it right. But where they're getting it wrong is, finding the difference between the workflow and the AI, the agents. Because obviously the AI agent is going to cost them a lot more, when the workflow can be a lot cheaper,
right?
Like essentially free in some cases, just the hosting, right?
What do you think, and this is just a personal opinion, of AI agents handling inbound and outbound calls? I've been called by AI agents. I've called places, and an AI agent obviously answers. What do you think about that, and where do you think that's all going?
So we actually do installation of some of these AI receptionists and voice receptionists. But my philosophy behind it is that we never want to take away from the human connection of it, right? I don't want it to completely replace the receptionist. I don't think that that's the best course of action. But, let's say a clear case is we installed it for a mechanic, right? And the reason that we did it was because, a lot of the times he wasn't able to pick up the phone. Right. So
one-man show kind of thing. Yeah,
one-man show kind of thing. So he wasn't able to pick up the phones, and when the phone's ringing and nobody's answering, he's losing customers.
Right.
So in an effort to kind of like almost save face in that sense, he kind of installed that system, and then that's what's actually been helping him, keep these calls booked. And then maybe they don't have we have it set up to it has the full conversation and fully books appointments after hours, but during hours it'll schedule a callback time so that they can speak with another person, because he wanted to keep that human element.
Got it.
So I think that's very important still, and that's that kind of plays into the psychology of things, where we kind of like to really consider that into things. Like we know there's a lot of fear with AI, right? I think
that's one of the big ones, is losing the human touch.
Yeah. And the fear revolves around, people losing their jobs, but we don't like to think of AI like as a replacement, especially since we're installing these tools into businesses.
It's an enhancement in my book.
Yes, that's how I see it. I see it as we're supercharging employees, or the business or the owner, whoever is using those tools is getting a boost, right? We're not exactly using it as a replacement to somebody, right? Because it's going to, like I said, it's only good up to 85% of the time, right? That 85% threshold, that other 15 that's missing is too much of a risk for you to just completely rely on the AI.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you're focused on medical and legal practices, correct?
Yeah.
Why is that, and what do they need that's different from the plumber, the mechanic?
So our main focus with these medical and law offices is the compliance.
Okay.
Right. So our business relies heavily on compliance. We host everything locally. All our agent systems that we build are held on an individual server for each business.
So each business gets its own server?
Yes, each business gets its own server, assuming that they need the compliance with it, right? The compliance is the most important part.
HIPAA on the medical side.
Yeah, HIPAA on the medical side, SOC 1, SOC 2, ADA, etc. Right? All these compliances where we make sure that, we stay on top of things, that they are, everything is, of course, compliant with things, because with these AI, the second that you allow the AI into a CRM, the CRM was compliant to begin with, let's say, but the second the AI is in there, it's no longer.
Right.
So we have to make sure that as we're adding things to the system and to like the workflows and everything, because we usually just build out the dashboard with like a system and then everything's connected. So we need to make sure that everything stays compliant, even as we're adding things to it. So it's compliancy throughout the way. And I think that's the biggest thing that, I'm sure that they're aware of, but they might not even think that it applies in the case of sometimes these agents, right?
How aggressive have you seen medical practices get into AI?
Oh, it's been big, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially for repetitive.
That's why you're in the space, right?
Yeah. A lot of people are gearing towards like putting AI into their business, and rightfully so. I forgot where I read this, but it was projected that by like 2027, like around like 80% of businesses were going to have AI somewhere in their business. Right. So
already by next year.
By next year, yeah, by 2027. I think I read that at the beginning of this year too. So who knows how that's changed already, because in the last 3 months we've had an incredible amount of development, right? We're seeing open source kind of fade away a little bit. We're seeing these harnesses, and for those of you that don't know, a harness is basically explain what open source is as well.
Oh,
okay. Sorry. So open source is basically just having the code open for anybody to use and edit, right? It's good because it allows freedom for software, for people to actually customize the software and use it in the way that they truly want to. But with AI, people are just kind of cloning softwares, right? So that's why we're seeing open source. Well, at the beginning of the AI, it had a big boom, right? Everything was open. Everybody wanted everything to be open source, right? And then I think it was Cursor that was like, no, we're not going to open source anything. We want to just kind of keep things like under wraps for now. And then other companies started to kind of see this as, these harnesses was one of the first things that got copied.
And what is a harness?
So getting into that, the harness is basically a platform that controls the AI in a way that it's already predetermined, right? So it's almost like adding another layer of instructions to the AI. And a lot of these harnesses, depending on what their specific purpose, can do that purpose better than just using the AI alone. For example, Cursor, like how I just mentioned, is a harness for coding particularly, right? So it grabs whatever model that you're using, Claude or ChatGPT, and then it'll apply like instructions, and then it supposedly gets around 30 times better coding results than just using Claude Code or Codex.
So wrapping up, let's say you've got a crystal ball right in front of you right now. Where's it all going, in your opinion?
That's a great question. I think, in my opinion, like I said, I don't see AI going away.
Right.
And I honestly don't see it getting to the point of it replacing people's jobs entirely. At least not yet, right? Not in the foreseeable future. I think that there's always going to be somebody in the loop, but I do see these AIs getting a lot more accurate, right? Did you hear about Claude Mythos?
Yes.
So Mythos was a very, very scary update that Claude gave us, which was, they haven't released it to the public, but they basically said that this is better than any AI tool that's ever been created. They all say that, right?
Of course.
With every release. But what stood out to me was the report that they released about how it understood the security vulnerabilities. Right. So I think the first direction that we're going to move into is, well, everybody's already kind of scrambling to find out how we secure everything, right? I don't know if you're aware of how many, I know security has been a big topic here today, but there's been a lot of security breaches, right? You know, with
due to AI,
due to these new tools that are coming out where people are finding vulnerabilities in infrastructure. There was something that the NSA released about everybody having to reset their routers. Like everything is coming out that, you know, revolves around security.
Yeah.
So I think the first step that we're going to move is kind of building the wall, right? And then, you know, it's going to move into the further progression of AI, because that is a big thing right now. Like if we would keep releasing bigger and better AI models to the public without patching that wall first, it's just going to be a disaster. Yeah, it's going to be really bad.
So Jaime, if somebody wants to speak with you, how can they get in touch with you?
You can find us on Instagram at OTR Digital AI, or my personal Instagram page at Jaime OTR, or they can also visit our website at digitalotr.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show.
No, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
A lot of good stuff.
Thank you.
And we will catch you on the next edition of An Eye for AI.